China has miscalculated, and the United States' new B-21 Raider will force Beijing to confront that mistake if it ever moves on Taiwan. China's premise is simple: keep U.S. carriers back and smash regional airfields from Guam to Japan, so America can't respond in time. But that bet has a hole in it. Within 12 hours of the first shots, the B-21 can be on the way, looking for payback. China wouldn't be the first power in the Pacific to underestimate American innovation, and it's fitting the B-21 carries a name tied to the last time someone learned that lesson the hard way. On April 18, 1942, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle launched 16 B-25 Mitchell bombers from an aircraft carrier and brought the war straight to Japan's doorstep. It proved a truth Japan couldn't unsee: the Pacific Ocean is not a wall. Today, it's China staring at that same truth, modernized. The B-21 Raider, named for Doolittle and his men, is the next generation of stealth bomber technology, built to survive and strike inside heavily defended airspace. Here's the part Beijing can't ignore. The world's most capable military built a next-generation stealth bomber for one reason: to show up even when you think the sky is locked down. If that doesn't scare Chinese planners off the invasion, the first bombs dropping from an aircraft they can't even track will. Here's how China's air defense stacks up against the B-21. China's air defense is built to win a long fight. It's layered: shipborne systems at sea, fighters overhead, and ground-based surface-to-air missiles on the coast. Try to push into contested airspace and you're supposed to get hit from all three directions. Start with the outer ring. HQ-9, China's long-range backbone. It's designed to reach out to around 150 miles, and the naval version of this missile, based on the Lanzhou-class destroyer, pushes that threat line even farther when destroyers are positioned forward. If something slips past, the next less-than-friendly face they would see is the HQ-22, with a range of a little over 100 miles, enough to cover most of the island of Taiwan from land-based launchers in China. A typical battery would include 3 launchers with the ability to engage 6 air targets simultaneously. As you close on the mainland of China, the inner ring takes over. HQ-16, with about a 40-mile reach, built to protect key land targets from counterattack. Its naval variant on Chinese frigates pushes that same 40-mile bubble out to sea on Taiwan's eastern side. And up close, HQ-7 and HQ-10 land-based systems handle the last few miles. Cleanup duty. Chinese air defense doctrine relies heavily on these layers to deny access to contested airspace. The Wildcard is the Chinese Air Force, which can extend that threat line far into the Pacific. Chinese fighters boast a range of 600 to 950 miles without refueling, enough to blanket the Taiwan Strait and engage targets before they even reach the first missile ring. But here is China's strategic miscalculation. China's Taiwan plan depends on one thing: deny the U.S. the ability to operate over the island until the takeover is done. The bet is that America won't stomach the cost of taking it back. But what if China fails during its initial invasion? What if Chinese targets are sitting ducks for the B-21 when it arrives? That's the nightmare. Every extra hour gives the B-21 more time to dismantle the system holding the whole plan together. The B-21 Raider sends chills down the spines of Chinese generals because it calls their bluff. With over 100 B-21s slated for production, the U.S. can punch through China's denial zone en masse. And launching from the U.S. West Coast, backed by America's aerial refueling machine, the B-21 can reach the Taiwan area in as little as 12 hours. China isn't likely to land its scale and finish the fight in the first hours. Taiwan would still be resisting, hard, especially in the island's mountains and cities. So when the B-21 shows up in force, the war is still on. And that's when China's Keep America Out plan starts collapsing in real time. The B-21 Raider counters what China actually gets right. Chinese military doctrine for the invasion of Taiwan is not without merit. Even U.S. war games show the Chinese demonstrating a high level of success at their 2 primary objectives: keeping U.S. aircraft carriers at a distance and crippling U.S. airfields in the Pacific. The Chinese plan to neutralize American aircraft carriers via Chinese DF-21D and DF-26B anti-ship ballistic missiles. These missiles boast a range of 2,500 miles and can use hypersonic glide vehicles to make them harder to track. They are highly effective and a real threat to the U.S. carrier fleet. The U.S. Navy's F-35 has a quoted range of about 1,200 miles, but its combat radius is closer to 600. So if China's anti-ship missiles keep carriers pushed back, the U.S. air response gets muted fast. The F-35 is a major problem for China, but only if it can reach the fight. And China's plan doesn't stop at the sea. It's also built around denying U.S. operations across the first island chain, Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines, with early strikes on regional airfields including Guam. Those bases would be among the first targets, and the U.S. might not be able to prevent the initial bombardment. The B-21 counters Chinese success on both fronts. China may be able to sink an aircraft carrier, but with the West Coast as the B-21 launch point, they cannot sink the continental United States. China may strike Guam and Japan with success, but the B-21 has global range. Even with broad Chinese success in the initial strike, the B-21 can counterattack on the first day of the fight. Here's what happens when the B-21 shows up to the fight. In the past year, the United States military has been able to demonstrate the ability to operate aircraft with impunity over the skies of Iran and Venezuela, which hosted some of the best Russian-made missile defense systems available. Not a single American aircraft was lost, and it appears missile defense systems were either incapacitated through electronic warfare or spent their time chasing ghosts in the sky. This foreshadows unprecedented capabilities that would be on full display by the United States in a fight for the island of Taiwan. If China is betting that they can shoot down the B-21, they are making another major miscalculation. Once the B-21 reaches the contested zone, the Chinese military's problems are just beginning. The aircraft has a reduced radar cross-section from multiple angles that make it almost invisible to any early warning aircraft or ground-based radar the Chinese can deploy. Russian anti-aircraft weapons couldn't see lesser aircraft over the skies of Iran, and it remains to be seen whether Chinese anti-aircraft weapons will be able to see the next generation of stealth technology over the Strait of Taiwan. And when the B-21 approaches the target area, it can then deploy a myriad of weapons before the Chinese are aware the aircraft is in the sky. The Raider can launch long-range standoff cruise missiles, precision-guided bombs, and even nuclear weapons should the day ever arrive. Not to mention, the B-21 has unmanned capabilities, meaning that for the riskiest missions, no American pilots need to come into harm's way. Targets would likely include long-range surface-to-air missile launchers, particularly the anti-ship missiles attempting to keep the U.S. Navy at a distance. Command centers and naval facilities would also be a top priority. The B-21 isn't designed only to fight over Taiwan, but to take the fight straight to the heart of the Chinese mainland. The Chinese DF-21D and DF-26B anti-ship ballistic missiles that are threatening the U.S. carrier fleet will be highly prioritized targets. Once Chinese anti-ship missiles are neutralized, United States aircraft carriers could then move closer, putting the unmatched F-35 into the fight over the skies of Taiwan. The United States has the capability to keep the B-21 in constant operations, ensuring that any invasion of Taiwan is constantly harassed, while Taiwan military forces prepare for or actively repel the ground invasion. That's the turning point. Taiwan stops fighting alone. The B-21 strikes fear into the Chinese military because it upends the military doctrine supporting the entire invasion of Taiwan. That doctrine presupposes denial of U.S. forces, and the B-21 denies them that ability. China bet everything on this doctrine, and they stand to lose everything as a result of the B-21 Raider. Once denial of U.S. access to the contested zone has evaporated, China is faced with the daunting task of invading an island 80 miles from its shores, while the world's most sophisticated Navy and Air Force rain fire down upon them. Failure at this point is not only possible, but highly likely. The cost of Chinese failure in an invasion of Taiwan may be more than the Chinese Communist Party can bear. If any Chinese invasion of Taiwan is repelled, it would spell the end of Chinese military ambitions in the Pacific for the near future. It would take China decades to recover from the catastrophic losses experienced during a failed invasion, and could lead to domestic political upheaval within the Chinese Communist Party. It would be the beginning of the end for the current ruling class in Beijing, and that is perhaps more frightening to the ruling elite than military losses on the battlefield. The B-21 Raider, in its ability to deter an invasion and strike fear into the enemy ruling class, would make Jimmy Doolittle proud of his namesake. It would be a repeat of his famous 1942 mission with more advanced technology and perhaps, thanks to the unmanned capability of the B-21, without the loss of a single American pilot. The Raider name lives strong in U.S. military lore and in the quiet places Chinese military planners don't like to talk about. The B-21 Raider is most certainly China's air defense nightmare in a fight for Taiwan.